Hey folks, it's Dr. H, your friendly wargame guy at the Air Command and Staff College, and I'd like to talk to you about naval movement in the next war series. So, naval units move during when it's your turn to move. Your turn to be able to move land units. So, if you have the initiative during the initiative combat step, the initiative movement step, the exploitation step, and in the basic move, the movement, the initiative or first player movement step. If you don't have the initiative step during the reaction step, not the elite movement segment, they don't have ER values of 6. And in the second step of the basic movement step. So, again, if you would be eligible to move land units, you are eligible to move naval units. And naval units can move one of these boxes at a time, but can move one box at a time, but then into the inshore box in that box, right? So, for example, this guy here, right? Remember, he is a Chinese carrier battle group. He could move to the South China Sea, that's their one box, but then move into the Paracels inshore box, right? In one move. Now, the ultimate question is the move you're trying to make contested? If it is not contested, it succeeds, right? So, I'm just going to kind of explain how this works later, but spoilers, right? Moving from here, right? China controls this to here, the South China Sea. China controls this to the Paracels inshore box. China controls that. None of that will end up being contested, right? But we need to determine if it's contested. And the way that you can determine that is actually to look at this chart, which is printed on the back of the game rulebook. Right, this covers a lot of naval movement and explains a lot of what naval movement is. So this chart sort of explains like the different places that you can move naval units, and then some basic statements about naval units, and then this big chart here that tells you whether or not your movement is going to be contested. And basically, you find the starting condition. You start asking questions, and if you get to the end, it's uncontested, right? The move is successful. So, for example, here, right, friendly port or at sea hex, moving to a friendly port or at sea hex. Now, at sea hexes are actually found on the operational map, right? So I'll move some stuff aside. These blue hexes on the operational map are at sea hexes. And then these ports are ports, right? So if I had a naval unit here on the map and I was moving it into Haiphong, then I would use this row and I would check, right? Is the associated inshore box the associated inshore box contested or enemy controlled? Well, let me look and see really quickly. Oh, look here, right? The Gulf of Tonkin inshore box is contested. Nobody controls it. So yes, the movement would be contested. And that's my answer. I go to the contested box. I go and I do the contested roll, which I'll show you in a second. But friendly port or hex, and I'm going to an inshore box, right? That I'm going to run through this whole thing, right? This whole check here. Inshore box, and I'm going to a friendly port or LC hex, right? So I'm in the box, I'm going to the inshore box, I check this. And then here, right, ADSI box, ADSI box or zone or inshore box, going to an ADSI box, zone, or an inshore box, right? So that's most of the moves on this map, right? Right, if I'm trying to move this guy from here to here, right, Marianas to central approaches, then I am moving from a zone to a zone. So a couple of other things I want to point out that are written on this particular thing, right? Right, naval movement. You can move individually or stack during any friendly movement except elite reaction. No more than one at-sea zone per movement segment. No stacking limit for C's except a limit of 1 per hex. Now, the advantage of stacking is that they get to defend each other mutually. The disadvantage of stacking is that the whole stack, when it moves, has to take the results of one contested inshore box. Or correction, one contested movement, right? So imagine I had a stack of these guys here, right? I stack them all together. They all defend each other. Awesome. I make one roll and they all get that result, right? If they try to move. Another nuance is that, again, the Chinese cruise missile boxes. If a move would be uncontested, but it moves into a zone that has the Chinese cruise missile markers, like this here, right? Then, like this one here, then the Chinese player can spend a cruise missile point, right? One of their cruise missile points, and make that movement contested as a result. Right? That's what that marker allows you to do, right? That's what this symbol allows you to do, right? So remember, this symbol allows you to influence C control by spending cruise missiles. It also allows you to make movement contested that would be otherwise uncontested. So how do I make a contested roll? How do I make a contested roll? Well, I'm going to come over here. Whoops. Wrong thing. Come back. No. No, there we go. Okay. It's going to be down here. Contested C movement. We're going to use advanced results, right? So, we can see here, die roll 5 or less. C movement successful. 6 through 8, abort or strike 1. More than 9, abort or strike 2. And we've got our modifiers here. Right? So, for each SAG, CV, CVN that's in the zone being moved into, right, or doing the movement. So each naval unit, right, that's trying to bust its way through gets a modifier. For air supremacy in the zone, at least one inshore box is friendly controlled. For if you're moving in from an AT-C box or associated all-C hex. The ASW level and the submarine threat level, again, they pop up. Mine marker density, we'll talk about mines later. Non-allied cruise missiles versus allied only, right? That's for standard game. We're not doing that, so strike that line. Non-allied expense cruise missile point, right? So you can spend a cruise missile point to make something contested. You can spend another cruise missile point to get a modifier on this chart. Philippines excludes cruise missile in the advanced game. Okay, so let's move from here to here. Right, we're going to move that carrier from there to there as an example. We're going to come here, starting in an AT-C zone, box zone, and we're moving to or through an AT-C zone box. So, okay, 1, is your starting location being controlled? No. Inshore box affected by mines? No. Enemy naval unit starting location? No. Is the location moving to enemy controlled? No. Again, no mine, next warp Poland only, no mines. Enemy naval unit in the destination? No. Naval movement is successful. However, we're moving into a cruise missile space. So normally, So again, this would just happen, but China can spend a cruise missile point and make this contested. So let's assume they do. So we come to the chart. There we go. Right, so we'll come here to the chart. -1, right, for each SAG. So for each CVN. So -1, there's a CVN there. There are no Chinese naval units. No one has air supremacy in this area. There are no inshore boxes. ASW level is 1, so -1. Threat level, for adding the sub-threat level, so 2. So we're at -2, +2, 0, right? Because the submarine threat level is 2. There's no mine markers. China can spend a cruise missile point, so they will. We'll spend another one, so now it's +1. Roll the die. And we get a 9 + 1 is 10. That's 9. That's greater than 9, equal to or greater than 9. Go over to advanced results, abort or strike 2. So now I, as the U.S. player have a decision. I can either abort the movement, or I can put a strike 2 marker on there and complete the movement. I'm going to abort the movement because the strike 2 marker is pretty deadly, right? So I don't actually make that move, right? That move has been contested by the Chinese at the price of 2 cruise missile points. They get it, right? But if I had rolled a 5 or less, as you can see on the chart, movement successful, right? We made it. Or if I had rolled that 6 through 8, I would have a different choice, right? An abort or take a strike 1 marker. Maybe I'm willing to take a strike 1 marker. So, right, now that's 1 movement. If I had 3 naval units here in a stack, they all have to abide by that roll, but they get to defend each other. But if I had 3 naval units separately, each trying to make that move, that's 3 movements. Hopefully that made sense. So yeah, that's how movement works. Remember, you want to check your back cover, chart here, right? Understand if it's going to be contested movement or non-contested movement. If it's not contested, the move happens. If it is contested, we come here. We take a look at our contested sea movement chart. We roll on our contested sea movement chart. We're either going to get a successful or a choice to either abort or take the strike. We can choose to take the strikes, or we can choose to abort, right, if we get this. This is not difficult. If it sounds simple, it's because it is. There aren't a lot of snags on this one. So keep that in mind, right? It's not that difficult. So anyway, that's how naval movement works. And that's pretty much it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it on this one. I will talk to you soon.